Is 1 minute after the hour, everybody. Hello and welcome to our webinar, How to Sell Legal Services Without Giving Legal Advice. My name is Theophan. I'm the president of Smart Systematic Selling. We are a sales training and development company that has worked with probably right around 150 law firms at this point in the last 4 or 5 years. I'm joined by Nathan Babb. He is the director of client engagement for a family and criminal defense law firm out of Minnesota, Martine Law. And we're going to be talking all about this subject today. Now, little housekeeping. First of all, this is being recorded. Don't leave. Don't leave just because it's being recorded. I know some of you, it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, wherever you are. Don't leave just because it's being recorded. Although we will be uploading this video to our company YouTube channel later this week, and then we'll make sure that everybody has access to it. I'm sure there's going to be some good stuff that we talk about today, and you might want to have an opportunity to go over it again. During this, if you have any questions, I think you can send those in the chat. You can raise your hand if you have a question. I try to make different trainings and meetings, webinars. I try to make it as interactive as possible because it is a webinar. Of course, we can't see everybody. Y'all just get to stare at Nathan and I for the next 58 minutes. But if you do have a question, I believe you can raise your hand. I think you can even send the question in chat. But there's even a question and answer, a Q&A section. So I think you can see that little button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you want to click on that, it'll show us any questions that are coming up. And then as soon as we have a pause, we'll address your questions. So let's see, where do we start? We are here to talk about how to sell legal services without giving legal advice. Okay, so first of all, Nathan, you're going to have a chance to introduce yourself in just a second, but Nathan is not an attorney. And I know traditionally with law firms, attorneys that were there's this term rainmaker in the legal industry where you've been an associate for a while and you're hoping to become a partner. One of the things that firms traditionally would have you become a rainmaker so that you've proved yourself production wise. Now let's see if you can actually generate revenue for the firm. And then you'd become a rainmaker, and that would put you in the running for a potential partnership with the firm. So even that's traditional model, right? And I know today that there are law firms that have associates that are doing the consultations. And it's not like you're going for a partner position with the firm, but it's just the way the firm is set up. Associate attorneys do consultations. The managing owner or the managing partner of the law firm is doing consultations. And there's now this new concept, I think, over the last few years of a non-attorney salesperson. I don't have an attorney in here to talk to everybody about how to sell legal services without giving legal advice. I've done even better than that. No offense, attorneys. I've done better than that. I've got a non-attorney that sells legal services all day, 5, sometimes even 6 days a week. Yeah. Nathan Babb, would you briefly introduce yourself, a little bit about your past sales experience, going into work for Martine Law, and what you've done since you've started working with them?
Yeah, so I guess just kind of a quick introduction for my background. I was originally born in Houston, Texas. I graduated with a marketing degree and a minor in psychology from Texas Tech. I technically speaking, my first sales job, and I like to say my only one before this, was being a server at Chili's as well. So I did that. I worked in finance for about 10 months right out of college, didn't really enjoy it. So I would say this is technically my first true sales job, unless you count serving chips and salsa and margaritas at Chili's.
Right. And how long have you been with the firm?
I think since October of 2023, so maybe coming close to a year and a half.
Okay. And no like formal sales training before going to work with the firm. Nothing, like no formal sales background other than Chili's server. Did you say you didn't really enjoy sales?
No, I enjoyed serving at Chili's, if that counts as sales.
Yeah, well,
kind of enjoyed
big on
that.
the customer service side.
But yeah, I guess, yeah, with sales as well, like I only really thought about it in my senior year of college. as well. The last semester, actually,
Okay.
as well as when.
Okay. So so we've got Nathan here who before going to work at Martine Law had zero real sales experience and zero formal sales training. Now, for those of you that are here watching, you know Smart Systematic Selling, we're a sales training and development company. We have a sales training program. We have an intake training program. We do sales coaching and fractional sales management. We even help with recruiting on the front end. I'm not here doing this webinar to try to sell you any of our services. When you leave today, my goal is for all of you that are here to have actionable information that you can actually begin using tomorrow. So like you check into work tomorrow morning and you should have some nuggets that you're able to take with you from today that you can start using immediately. So, okay. So before we dig into how you do what you're doing at the law firm that you work for, we should probably talk a little bit about what we know goes on with sales and with law firms. And so traditionally, again, associate attorneys or rainmakers would do consultations with PNCs, potential new clients for the law firm. And again, this concept of a non-attorney is still a relatively new and fresh concept. But have you sat in on an attorney sales meeting when an attorney does a consultation? Have you ever sat in on one of those, Nathan?
One time.
One time. Okay, one time. What went down? How did it go? Without, of course, sharing any confidential information. What was it like listening to the attorney?
It was very, I'd say, kind of strict, right?
Mm,
Very blunt, straightforward, very meticulous in terms of the legal details of the
mm-hmm.
case, and it didn't close.
It didn't close. Would you say it was was it a sterile conversation, just like facts and
Yeah.
information? And yeah, okay. And that, from what I understand, that's pretty typical. And unless an attorney had previous sales experience before going to law school, they don't teach attorneys how to sell in law school. They just don't. There's no sales classes, right? And most of them, based on my experience, they're very analytical. They're very driven. They're typically black and white. They're like digging in to try to figure out how to win this case or how to help their client. So when they sit down and do a consultation with a PNC, it's usually that. It's kind of sterile. It's facts. It's information. It's giving some legal advice. This is what we're going to do with your case. This is how much it's going to cost. Give me your money. Let me help you with your case, right? Like bada bing, bada boom, let's go. And as you can imagine, if somebody needs help from a law firm and they meet with one law firm and that's the experience they have, and then they go meet with another law firm for a consultation and have a similar experience, and then they meet with another law firm and they have a similar experience, what does it come down to? What do they end up making their choice around? Like which law firm should I pick? What do they typically base it on?
You're going to choose price all day long.
Price all day long, because they're all the same. They're all the same. It's all facts and information. Here's how we're going to take care of your case. This is what it costs. Oh, this one's 15% cheaper. That's the one I'm going to go with. So check this out. Here, I want to share with everybody a little bit, not necessarily about like the history of selling, but I want to talk a little bit about traditional selling, what traditional salespeople do, and what buyers do. Like we're all buyers. So traditionally, salespeople focus on features and benefits. Like, hey, this is how we're going to help you with your case. It is your second DUI, but we handle hundreds of these every month. We are experts in this field and we're going to knock this out for you. Right. So it's more about features and benefit selling, and then overcoming stalls and objections, like the money objection or the decision maker. Oh, I got to talk to so-and-so objection, or the timing objection. So traditionally, salespeople are taught how to overcome objections and how to sell features and benefits. It is my humble opinion that that doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. I think it worked pretty well way back when, before the information age that we're existing in today, where we can go online and we can find information on anybody and anything with just a couple of mouse clicks and a couple of hits on my keyboard, right? I can find information about your law firm, who works there. I mean, shoot, I go to a website for a law firm and it lays out for me. That's the managing director. They've got 4 associate attorneys. Look, there's the intake person. Hey, there's their client happiness. Everything's on the internet. It's all on the website. So here's the thing. We are still in this mindset of we have to prove ourselves to the prospect. I have to prove to the prospect why we would be a good fit for them, right? Hi, Hans. Welcome to the webinar. Let's see. There we go. All right. Okay, so where was I? Oh, so we can go online and we can find information about a law firm. We can find information about just about anything. And so buyers today are more educated than ever. If I need to find a law firm because I need help with X, the very first thing I do is I go on Google and I do a search and I find information about the law firm. Then I click on the little link and I schedule a consultation, or I pick up the phone and I call and I schedule a consultation, and I'm doing research on the law firm. Like I said, I can go onto a law firm's website right now and find out all kinds of information about said law firm. Did I freeze or did you freeze, Nathan?
I froze.
Okay, you froze. Okay, whew. I was like, okay, did I lose him? Let's see. Okay, so here I am, a PNC. I know all about your law firm. And think about this. I called you. I scheduled the consultation. I've done some research. I've read your Google reviews. By the time I'm sitting in front of you for a consultation, I know a lot more about your firm than you probably realize. And I feel like you could probably help me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting there in the first place. Buyers are more educated today than ever. So if you're sitting in front of a PNC, potential new client, AKA a buyer, you don't have to prove yourself to them with the features and benefits of your law firm. You don't have to explain to them like, hey, this is how we're going to help you. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And let me tell you about your case and this statute and that. And they don't care. They already feel like you can help them. So when you're sitting down across from a PNC, instead of focusing on features and benefits and overcoming stalls and objections, or instead of giving them legal advice, Nathan, how many consultations did you, January, the month of January, how many consultations did you facilitate? Just ballpark.
Total around I'd say around 100.
Around 100. Out of the 100, that's a lot. You are maxing out. Okay, just so everybody knows, an inside salesperson at any company, if you're doing a 45-minute to 1-hour sales meeting, AKA in this case, a consultation, your consultation, you max out at about 80 to 100 a month. So if you have a salesperson that's doing 80 consultations a month, it's time to find a second or a third or a fourth salesperson. Nathan doing 100 consultations a month. Out of the 100 consultations that you did in January, in how many of them did you give legal advice?
0, zilch, nada.
Well, okay. So first of all, you're not an attorney. What would happen if you gave legal advice to a PNC during a consultation?
I don't even want to think about what would happen. It's all bad. I'll say that.
It is all bad, because then the firm becomes liable for information that a non-attorney is giving, to legal advice that a non-attorney is giving to a PNC, right? So yes, liability becomes a really big challenge. And I think a lot of the time that's why law firms are, nope, we're going to have our associate attorneys do consultations. We don't want this whole non-attorney salesperson thing, because we can't wrap our head around how it's possible to do a consultation without giving legal advice. And we just want to be safe. Better safe than sorry. So if you're not giving legal advice in a consultation, how in the world are you getting people to say yes to working with your firm?
Build trust as well. It's mostly through emotions, actually. too, as well. You can, in theory, actually bring on a client and sell a client without even talking about the case, right? If you know your stuff correctly in terms of what motivates someone to purchase.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm kind of curious because you're hitting on something. Before you're able to start doing sales meetings for a law firm, before you're able to start facilitating consultations, what kind of information do you need as a non-attorney? What do you need to know about your law firm before you can start doing consultations for them?
In regards to the legal side of it,
Just in regard to the firm as a whole, right? I mean, you need to understand the service you're selling. You need to understand the price of the, because you're even, Nathan. Okay, hold on. Let's pause for a second. Out of the 100 consultations that you did in the month of January, how many matters did you convert?
55.
55 matters. That's a 55% conversion rate. Nicely done. Nicely done. Out of those 55 matters, how many were you able to get to sign and pay in the consultation?
I'd say maybe anywhere from vary each week. I'd say maybe 50 to 60%.
So you had 55 new matters last month, and you're saying 25 to 30 of them signed and paid in the consultation?
Yep. Either
Okay.
it's, yeah, the delays can vary because usually it would be a 2 hour delay, would be a huge chunk, or a 3 hour delay if they didn't convert in the consult.
Yeah. Right.
Not weeks
Right.
later, but hours later. Yeah.
Right. So as far as, so we're seeing a model for law firms as far as a glide path is concerned when it comes to PNCs. A PNC calls in, let's just say, for example, ring, ring, an intake specialist answers or a receptionist answers and transfers it to intake. So the intake person hopefully is doing a 10 to 15 minute intake call, qualifying the PNC for a consultation or disqualifying them. They're scheduling the consultation. In this case, Nathan, they're scheduling the consultation for you. So what I'm hearing you say is PNC called in, spoke to intake. That's call number one. Then they had a consultation with you. That's call number two. And out of the 100 consultations you did, 55 matters that converted, 25 to 30 of those signed and paid in the consultation.
Yes.
That's what we call in sales. We call that a 2-call close. Intake call, sales meeting. That's a 2-call close. That's a phenomenal conversion rate. And for you, a non-attorney, to get them to sign and pay in the consultation, not forwarding it to a paralegal, right? Not forwarding it to an office manager to get them to get the payment and get the retainer agreement or the engagement agreement signed, but you're doing it in your consultations. So let's go back. So as a non-attorney salesperson working at a law firm, what do you need to know in order to begin selling services for the law firm? Like, what knowledge do you need to have?
Not really any legal knowledge, actually, in terms of I need to know if it's a case we can take on, of course, from the logistics perspective, but I don't need to know strategy or anything like that because it's not going to be brought up.
But how do you determine if it's a case that the firm is able to take on?
When it comes to it's basically if the funds are there as well, if it's something that's within our wheelhouse, right? Something that our attorneys can
Do they
align
have
with.
the money? Are the funds there? Right? Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. If the financial side, if the funds are there, if it's something that we can take on, right?
Is
And
it
if
in
it's,
your practice area?
yeah, if it's in our practice area, if it's within family law, if it's within a criminal defense time frame, a lot of that is actually done within our intake system. So most of the
Okay.
time, it's there to sell, is what I say.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised a couple questions haven't come up yet. Because I mean, in my mind, I'm like, well, how are you even selling without giving legal advice? And we're really gonna dig into that here in just a little bit. But hey, Ian's here. Hi, Ian. So all you really need to everybody's here. This is great. Hi, everyone. We got like 21 people in here. This is great. So all you really need to know is, correct me if I'm wrong, you need to know what services the firm offers so that you can figure out, like, is this a case that we can take? You also need to understand how much each type of case costs, right? Why isn't an attorney why does an attorney not need to be involved in how much a case costs? Like, how do you know?
I'm just told as well as the
He's got
retainers.
a price sheet.
Yeah, it's retainers this amount, right, as well. So we start at this number. To, let's say if it's family law, you have a set number. If it's a felony, some quick calculations I can do beforehand. We have a set price sheet of kind of an if and or situation. These follow down.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We do have a couple questions in chat. Oh, we have 3 now. So Francisco asked a little while ago, he said, industry wise, do you see a client following a 3-quote rule? I'm not sure what you mean by a 3-quote rule, but what I can tell you is the majority of Nathan's PNCs in last month, at least, 25 to 30 out of the 55 that he converted were a 2-call close. So no 3 quotes, no sending a quote anywhere. It was an intake conversation and a sales conversation. For the remainder of those 55, how many times did you have to follow up with them to get them to close?
I mean, 90% would be one call. They would decide in the meeting. That one call is just to give them time to get the funds and they take the payment. So it wasn't necessarily a follow-up call of begging them as well. Most of it's just, all right, this is the set schedule. We're going to take the payment. You need 3 days to get the funds. I'm going to set it this time. We're going to take the payment, then done. That would be the follow-up call, the third call.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. Caitlin wants to know, how do you know if it's part of the wheelhouse of the firm? So that's a great question. And I'm going to assume, Caitlin, that you're asking, like, how does Nathan know that it's within the practice area of the firm? How do you know that, Nathan?
So initial training too, right? We have very strict boundaries of what we can take and what we can't take on. For us, there's actually kind of 2 layers when it comes to Martine Law. It's intake first, is that first layer of defense, so to say. They're trained on what cases we're comfortable with, what cases we're not. If they have any questions, there's a Q&A form, right? And if it's something that for whatever reason is off the Q&A form, then they would just ask the team of attorneys in general, right? Most of them don't even get to that point. And then I'm the second layer of defense too, right? So seen a lot of cases, I know what we're comfortable with after a lot of consults, of course. But if I ever have any
Yes.
questions, I just
So
ask.
it sounds like it's part of the intake questionnaire. The intake specialist is
Yeah.
qualifying or disqualifying them based on the case type, and then you're just reconfirming that during the consultation, right? Tammy, and Caitlin has a follow-up question. She says, so you know how to qualify? Nathan, do you know how to qualify?
Yeah, 95% of the cases I can qualify if it's something we can take on or not as well. There's a few 5%, a couple free cases that stick out. I'd say 95% of that 5% is family law. As always.
Ooh, that's you just brought up another point. You, a non-attorney salesperson, how dare you? 100 consultations last month, 55 converted matters. Of the 55 converted matters, how many had to be refunded because you later found out that it's not a case that the firm can actually take?
0.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
happened before. Yeah, it's happened before occasionally, every once in a while throughout about the year and a half. But last month I had 0.
Yeah. Hey, are you comfortable role playing with me a little bit?
Yeah.
Good, because we have a couple questions here. Tammy says, if a PNC asks you a legal question that you're unable to answer, what do you tell them? She says, I've had PNCs tell me that they need that information before retaining our services, and I get stuck. And then Jennifer Bade, hi, Jennifer. Jennifer says, this is my question also. If a PNC insists on getting legal advice during a consult, it's like, how do you, so if I were to say to you, let's say we're 15 minutes into the consultation, and I say, well, so hold on a second, Nathan. Look, I need to know, am I going to have to pay child support? I do not want to pay child support. Am I going to have to pay child support?
Yeah, the response to that actually is the way I like to think of it is that's not his real question as well, right? The real question asked is, well, walk me through. I mean, when you say, that you might have to pay child support, I mean, how will that affect you?
Yeah. Okay. So what's an example? Give us an example. Tammy, Jennifer, give us an example of an actual like legal question that a PNC could ask. And then we'll kind of role play that as well. And while you ladies are getting ready to put that into the Q&A, Jimena Sussman, hi Jimena. She says, as you mentioned that you established trust, what method of structure of emotional intelligence are you following? Ooh, what lecture or book would you recommend? I know, Jimena, I can tell you. We're going to get to that here in just a minute. But what if somebody says, if one of the ladies want to put a question in there, like a legal question that somebody could answer? Oh yeah, immigration. A lot of people ask questions about their court proceedings or what asylum proceedings might look like. Well, there you go. So, I mean, Nathan, not immigration, but you do family and you do criminal. Do you do more family or more criminal or?
Criminal. That's my
Okay.
favorite. I
So,
love it.
if let's say, I don't know why I always default to this because I don't ever drink and drive, but let's say I'm on my second DUI and I go, hey man, can you lay this out for me? What does this legal process look like? What am I going to have to go through with the court system and stuff?
And you want basically my response, what my
Yeah.
response would
What would
be
you
to
say?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another typical answer is, well, I can't give out legal advice as well, right? I'm here to see if this is something that, a case that aligns with us, something they're comfortable with, something that we're a good fit as well. If they really push back, then you can always, what I've learned
Yeah,
from you
but
is
at least,
offer
I
the
mean, can't
attorney
you tell me
consult.
like, can't you at least lay out for me like what this whole process looks like?
As well. Walk me through when you say like the process, walk me through exactly what you mean by that.
Mhm. So essentially, what he's doing is he's giving it back to the PNC. Tammy says, "I've had a PNC ask if they're able to get alimony in their divorce or child support," which you just covered. Yeah, like what if I were to say, "Yeah, so there you go. Hey, so am I going to have to pay alimony? I do not want to pay her a penny. Please, do I have to pay alimony?" How would you respond to that, Nathan? Am I freezing on you?
Oh, did I lose connection? Can you see me?
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's starting to rain
So
back here.
what if it's like
If
a
I have to
family
pay,
law case? Yeah. And I go, "Hey, am I going to have to pay alimony because I do not want to pay her a penny?"
as well, it's you give back to them what they've asked as well, right? Of what happens if you pay alimony? I mean, when you walk me through this, why is that a concern?
Well, because I don't want to give her another penny. Dude, can't you just tell me, am I going to have to pay alimony?
No. I want to make sure that I'm understanding it properly. When you say you don't want to have to give her another penny, I mean, what do you mean by that? What happens if you do?
Yes. Him and I are just sitting here talking about this. We're kind of like role playing a little bit. When you're in a full conversation with a PNC, the conversation flows a lot more naturally. It's just like you're having a conversation with a friend or a family member, although it's professional because he's representing a law firm and it's a prospective client for the law firm. But the conversation style is relatively casual, professional, but casual. And because there's a flow in the conversation, when somebody says, "Hey, do I have to pay child support or alimony because I do not want to pay her another penny?" When you come back and you go, "Well, that's a good question. When you say you don't want to pay another penny, what do you mean?" And that person's going to start to share with you more about their financial experience, like why they don't want to pay any pennies and what's going on with them. So it gets them to open up even more with you. Now, Nathan, at your firm, if somebody says, no, I don't want to meet with a non-attorney, like you're not even an attorney. How can I meet with an attorney? What do I have to do to meet with an attorney?
You mean if they're dragging their feet in lock and cementing them in concrete?
Well, you're in the consultation, right? And the person goes, "Hold on, man, I'm asking you all these legal questions. You can't even give me any answers. What do I have to do to meet with an attorney?"
Consultation fee with an attorney. It's about an hour long. Run you over $300 as well. Would you want me to set that up for you right now?
Right. So how much is a consultation with you?
With us, family law for us is $50.
Very inexpensive
Yes.
for Minnesota. Yes. Or $300 plus per hour if they want to have a consultation with an attorney. Yeah. And for all of you in our audience today, 23 people. Hi, everybody. One of the things that we train intake on, so we do have an intake training, but one thing we teach our intake specialists to do, and you don't need to go through our training to be able to teach your intake specialists to do that, to do this. Like I said, I'm not here to try to sell you guys our services. But you can train your intake specialist when they're offering a consultation, if it is with a non-attorney, and the PNC pushes back and goes, "Well, wait a minute. Is that an attorney? Because I have some legal questions I need to get answered. And your intake specialist goes, no, 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 it's not an attorney, but this person's trained on how to evaluate your case. They'll share with you what it would look like if you decided to work with our firm. They'll do a deep dive with you and talk to you about your case and et cetera, et cetera. And if the person goes, no, 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 I still want to meet with an attorney. Let's say your consultations are free with a non-attorney. Your intake person should then say, oh, absolutely, sir or ma'am, I would be happy to schedule a consultation with you with one of our attorneys. Now that is $350. I know there's one law firm, they charge $550 for a 45-minute consultation with an attorney. And as you can imagine, most PNCs go, complimentary with a case evaluator, director of client engagement, or $550 with an attorney. Okay, I'll take the meeting with the director of client engagement. Even if the hourly fee for the attorneys is like $300 or $350, that's typically what they'll do. They'll opt to meet with the director of client engagement. And we're gonna break down for you this whole process in just a second of getting people to open up and getting them to share with you without having to give legal advice and get them to say yes. Evelyn says, Evelyn, hi, in Canada. How can you encourage intake salespeople to qualify independently to sell full retainer versus the paid consultation with a lawyer? How can you encourage intake salespeople to qualify? Well, Evelyn, so there's intake specialists, and then you've got your non-attorney salesperson. So the intake specialist should just be qualifying in a 10 to 15 minute intake call, whether or not the person qualifying them for a consultation or disqualifying them for a consultation. Okay, salesperson, yeah. So how do you encourage salespeople to qualify independently to sell full retainer versus the paid consultation with an attorney? Well, if they're already in the consultation with the non-attorney, with the salesperson, oh, she wants to know to sell the full retainer. How do you go ahead.
I trust myself more than I trust our attorneys to sell.
Snap.
So I think it's
well, there you go.
Yeah, it's confidence within a salesperson, because I know that if I were to push that, the likelihood that the sale would actually go through is significantly lower, just because of the mindset of an attorney, not in an insulting way, of course, just because it's not geared towards sales. It's not geared towards moving people to action. It's not geared towards pain points and being less than okay. It's a very different mindset, right?
Yeah.
I know that because of S3 training and sales training, that in terms of the likelihood of someone closing is highest with me than it's going to be with any sort of attorney.
So you're just confident.
Yeah, I think confidence in the ability and the kind of the psychology of it all, of what actually drives someone to sign on and buy a service.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this comes down to money mindset, right? I mean, there are a lot of salespeople out there that when you say, hey, this product or this service is $10,000, go sell it. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't afford that myself. I can't sell that, right? So if you have a salesperson that has money mindset problems, they got to go. You got to find somebody else that doesn't have money mindset problems. It's very difficult to overcome it. Jimena Sussman wants to know how long you've been working as a non-attorney salesperson, Nathan. About a year and a half, you said earlier?
Half, a little under.
Yeah, about a year and a half. Jimena, before that, Nathan had zero real sales experience, zero sales training, and had never worked for a law firm before. Yeah. Okay. Let's kind of dive in. Let's dive in like deep. So first of all, let's go back to what we were talking about earlier. Nathan is sitting in front of a PNC, a potential new client for his law firm, a criminal defense case. We know that the PNC has already spoken to intake and scheduled a consultation, because they wouldn't be in front of Nathan if they hadn't. We are also able to assume that this person has gone online and they've done their research about the law firm, and they feel like, based on the research they've done, the Google reviews that they've read, that this law firm, there's a strong potential that this law firm is going to be able to help this person with their case. So we have a very educated PNC sitting across from us. Again, if we have an educated PNC sitting across from us, we don't have to prove ourselves to them. They already feel like we could help them. So we don't need to posture. We don't need to primp. We don't need to use big words and talk legalese and try to convince them, they already feel like we could potentially help them. So what we do is we don't want to take a features and benefits approach to it. Features and benefits is like, just think of you. Did you say you're a marketing major or minor?
Marketing major. Yeah.
Okay, marketing. So what is marketing? Marketing is all about features and benefits. It's studying specific demographics to identify that large demographics pain point. And then we put marketing out there that addresses what we believe to be that demographics pain points. And so that's why you see on on park benches, and you see on TV, and is newspaper even around anymore? Online ads, everything is focused on the features and benefits of the product or the service that marketing is trying to sell. So marketing focuses on features and benefits. This knife self-sharpens, it chops, it dices, it slices. You can cut a tin can and then cut a tomato effortlessly, right? Features and benefits. That's what marketing does. That is not what sales should be doing anymore. So we're not taking a traditional approach. We should not be taking a traditional approach to selling when we're sitting in front of a PNC in a consultation. We should take a very different, modern approach to selling. And that's what you've been trained on. That's what you've learned. Again, no previous sales training before going to work for the law firm. So tell us about, like, just an overview of what a consultation with Nathan is like.
Yeah. So I guess going off of your points, agenda, needs assessment, moneymaker, decision, and the presentation. So I started off basically, since I just spelled that out real quick, I start off with an agenda, right? So I'm setting expectations. I'm taking control of the meeting, right? I'm giving a time frame as well, right? Establishing some level of authority, right? After agenda, I'll move into what's a needs assessment. It's diving through basically anywhere from 2 to 3 pain points. And my goal in that needs assessment is to get them to a point that we're emotionally critical, right? To where they can basically feel the pain of what they're going through as well, right? Once they've reached that emotional critical point, immediately go into the money step, because when someone's in pain, they will pay anything to get rid of said pain, right? Go through the money step. After that, confirm if there's any other decision makers that are on board. So anyone that basically can give the green light, right? So if that's just themselves, that's ideal, that's terrific. Or if there's any other decision makers, mom, dad, brother, sister, cousin, grandma, whoever could be financing it, right? Vetting that. And then at the end is the presentation as well, walking through next steps, what to expect, et cetera, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's the usual routine.
I want to dig in specifically to, like, how do we get a PNC to say yes without giving legal advice? And we're getting there. But what you were just sharing is there's 5 steps to a modern sales conversation. There's the agenda step, needs assessment step, money step, decision maker step, and presentation step. We really want to focus on the needs assessment step today, because that's where the magic happens. But just for a quick overview for everybody, the agenda step, when we move into the conversation, we're setting an agenda for our meeting, because it allows us to take control of the meeting. By taking control, we're leveling the playing field. I don't care if you're meeting with the governor of your state, or you're meeting with a billionaire, or your next door neighbor. Doesn't matter. Once you take control of that meeting, that allows you to we call it leveling the playing field. So now you're equals. They're no better than you. You're no better than them. You're equals. And then the third thing the agenda step does is, well, what an agenda for any meeting would do. It lets everybody know what you're there to do and sets a desired outcome for your meeting. And then we go into the needs assessment step. And that's where we're going to focus in just a minute. After we finish the needs assessment step, we then move into the money step. As you can see, the money step is where we talk about money. We don't wait until the end in S3. We don't teach people modern selling. You should get money out of the way in the middle of the conversation. Don't wait until the very end. And then, like Nathan was saying, after we've discussed money and we find out that they're qualified for money, we then move into the decision maker step, where we are making sure that we are, in fact, in front of all the decision makers. Now, once we come out of the decision maker step, we have a fully qualified buyer. We have somebody that has needs assessment. We have somebody that has needs that we can help them with. They can afford to work with us and they can make a decision. So now we go into the presentation step. And the presentation step is where we lay out for them how the firm is going to help them. We lay out for them the onboarding process, what it would look like when they start working with the firm. We collect payment. We get them to sign the agreement. Where are you giving legal advice in here, though? It's in the presentation step, right, Nathan? Just be honest. You are giving legal advice, right?
No, it's nowhere.
No. Okay. No legal advice. Okay. So agenda, needs assessment, money, decision makers, presentation. Now, everybody that's watching, we're going to say that we just set the agenda with our prospect, with our PNC. So they understand what we're here to do. We've taken control of the meeting. We move into the needs assessment portion of the conversation. Now, the needs assessment step, like I said, that's where the magic happens. Okay. So we want to kick off the needs assessment step in such a way that we can get our prospect to start sharing their story with us, right? How do you typically go into the needs assessment, Nathan?
I usually start off, well, what brought you in here to speak with me today?
Simple, right? What caused you to decide to meet with me? And then typically the response that they give you, what kind of a response do you usually get from somebody right out of the gate?
They just hop right into it usually.
You start sharing their story because people want
Start
to talk, right?
sharing.
They're
Yeah,
like, oh, let me tell you what's going on. They just go for it. And so what state do you typically find that they're in the very beginning? Are they emotional? Are they intellectual?
yeah, I'd say it's, well, right. Obviously not in the best mood, but it's kind of straightforward. Nothing
So
special.
they're okay.
Yeah, they're
They're
okay.
in no pain. They're typically not in any pain. Or even if they are in pain, they're not showing it to you, right?
Yeah, there's no
How
way.
how often do you go into the needs assessment and just have a PNC just blubbering, just like, oh, you're not going to believe what happened? How often does that happen?
Almost never.
Almost not, right? Sometimes it does, though, right? And that
Yeah,
makes your needs
occasionally.
assessment so short. It's like 5 minutes and you're out of
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Yeah. But the majority of the time, they come into the needs assessments part of the consultation, like you said, well. So we could say emotionally they are well. Could we also say that that means that they are in an intellectual state of mind?
Yeah, they're going to be thinking, kind of black and white, straightforward.
Yeah. So in the needs assessment step, our mission as a salesperson is to ask curious questions and practice active listening, right? What else? What else are we doing in the needs assessment step?
Well, I'm going to try to get them emotionally critical. That's what I want to do.
Right. Right. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But we're asking curious questions. We're practicing active listening. Are we telling them about the firm? Are we telling them, giving them case studies? I mean,
No, it's just searching for any quote unquote like buoys of pain points as well, right? You're digging deeper, right? Making sure that you're less than okay than them, right? So being on their same playing field
yeah.
is it's kind of like searching.
Yeah. So for clarification, this is great. I got slides. I've had these for years. So it's not special for this webinar. In the needs assessment step, we're focusing the conversation on the process. And this is important. Attorneys can do this if they unplug lawyer brain. Attorneys can do this. Focus the conversation on the prospect. It's not about the law firm. It's not about what the law firm can do for the PNC. It's not about how you're going to help them with A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Focus the conversation on the prospect. Let them tell their story, right? Ask curious questions, practice active listening. I really mean that. When you start to think, oh, I have to share X, don't do it. Just focus the conversation on your prospect. And as Nathan was saying, you want to identify their pain points. You want to listen for buoys. Guys, this is how we sell legal services without giving legal advice. I'm getting there. Hang in. You're going to see in a second. When you move into the needs assessment step, Nathan, and you say, what caused you to decide to meet with us today? The first answer they give you is typically like just surface level answer, right? Oh, I got a second DUI, dude. Got pulled over. They got me, right? Just surface level.
Yeah, straightforward. Facing
Yeah.
X, Y, Z charges.
Yeah, we call that a symptom. That's a symptom. That's not the actual pain point. See, in modern selling, you don't want to focus on features and benefits. You want to focus on a person's pain points. Like, what is their story? What is going on with them? So we want to identify their pain points. When you kick off the needs assessment step and you say, what caused you to decide to meet with me today? And your PNC goes, I got busted, got a second DUI, dude. If I lose my license, I'm in trouble. If I lose my license, I'm in trouble. That is what we call a buoy, everybody. A buoy is an indicator of potential pain. Well, in the real world, buoys are things that float in the ocean and measure waves and take the temperature of the ocean and stuff like that, right? But in a sales meeting, a buoy is an indicator of potential pain. So that tells us that there's probably something deeper. So when your PNC says, I got a second DUI. Yeah, dude, if I lose my license, I'm in trouble. If I lose my license, I'm in trouble. That's your buoy. Is that fair, Nathan?
Yep. Yeah. What happens if you lose your license?
What happens if you lose your license? So it's back up. What caused you to decide to meet with me? That's the first question we ask. The answer that the PNC gives you is typically an intellectual answer and a buoy. Second DUI. If I lose my license, man, I'm in trouble. And then you would say what to that?
What happens if you lose your license? Or when you say trouble, you'll be in trouble. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. If you say trouble, what do you mean by that? Oh, dude, if I lose my license, I lose my job. Right? We're being very, very to the point today in the webinar. This is not how a typical conversation goes. You got to ask more questions. Oh, if I lose my license, I lose my job. Okay, now he's moving from an intellectual state of mind. I got busted, dude, got pulled over, got a second DUI. And then as you drill down, you start to get the person emotional. Well, what would happen if you lose your license? Oh, like I said, I'll lose my job. And if I lose my job, I can't pay my bills. And then if I can't pay my bills, I'm out on the street. And my family, I can't take care of my family and I'm humiliated. And we're living under a bridge somewhere. The goal in your sales meeting is not to give legal advice and figure out legal strategy. The goal in a consultation is to get your PNC critically emotional around 2 to 3 pain points. We make decisions intellectually, but we buy emotionally. That's why features and benefit selling worked so well for so long. That's another story. Now, as buyers, we're so much more educated. We're on top of it. We know salespeople's tricks before they even start you know what I mean? So we have to have a different approach to selling. And so we're not focused on features and benefits. Instead, we're focused on getting our prospect to open up and share their story. We want them to get emotionally critical around what we call 2 to 3 pain points. And ultimately, pain points are personal and they have something to do with time, money, stress, or a combination of those. Sorry, Nathan, did you have a question? I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I actually had a good example because I was in a consultation right before this. I got out 10 minutes before this webinar, and this is exactly what happened. I had a PNC that's facing, it was a gross misdemeanor, right? He was scared of facing jail time. No legal advice. The route I went down was, what happens if you, to put it bluntly, what happens if you go to jail? I'll lose my job. What happens if you lose your job? Can't pay the bills. Can't pay the bills. It's going to affect his whole family then. So it's that same method. I did it 1 hour.
Nice. Would you say that he felt heard?
Yes. Yeah. Big time.
Did he say yes?
Yes. Yep.
Nicely done. Converted another matter. Nicely done, Nathan Babb. So you had this conversation with him. You set the agenda. You went in and did your needs assessment step. You talked about money. You talked about making sure that he's the one making a decision. Then you laid out for him what it's going to look like when the firm works with him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. So what we're doing, the reason that we're able to sell people legal services without giving legal advice is because it's actually not about that. That when a PNC agrees to hire your law firm, They're buying the person they're meeting with. So the person that Nathan just met with and converted earlier, they said yes to Nathan. I mean, they did say yes to the law firm, but they said yes. That person really believes in Nathan. They're like, dude, you get me. You understand what I'm going through. Thank you for letting me share my story. They might not say those words, but that's what they're feeling. They feel heard. They feel like somebody cares about them. Right? That really is how you sell legal services without giving legal advice. The whole idea is to get your prospect to open up to you and share their story. Don't try to sell them something. Just let them open up. Allow them to be vulnerable with you. Allow them to trust you. When you get a prospect to say yes, at what point do they get legal advice?
The attorney. Yeah. Yeah. Like maybe a day or so later from the attorney once they meet with them.
Yeah. Do you ever have somebody ask you legal questions and then you like write them down and say, oh, I'll make sure the attorney gets this if you decide to hire us?
Not really.
No.
Because yeah, it's not really necessary. It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't help with the sale at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So the short of the long is, when you're meeting with a PNC and you're doing a consultation with them, it's not about you. It's not about your law firm. It's not about the legal ramifications of X. It's not about laying out a legal strategy for them. It is about connecting with them as another human and showing them that you actually care. Is
Yeah.
that
Correct. And that's what I was saying before. I said I thought I could beat any attorney in a consult because an attorney would they would end the consult saying that this attorney's focused on beating his case, but in that gentleman's answer, he ended the consult thinking this law firm is going to fight for my family. Very big difference. Fighting for your family versus fighting against a gross misdemeanor. You could
yeah.
black and white in terms of the powerfulness of fighting for your family.
That is a huge difference. We're going to win your case or we're going to fight for your family. And that could be anything. Look, Nathan is with a criminal defense and family law firm, but we've got people at immigration law firms. We've got non-attorney salespeople at elder law firms. I mean, they're all over the place. Please, all of you watching this, I hope you're not saying, oh, well, that's fine, but that's not my firm. My firm's different. No. I'll bet anybody here money. Well, you can't have him, but I'll bet anybody here money that Nathan could go work for your law firm and do exactly for you what he's doing for Martine. Period. Because it's the same conversation model. The only difference is the service that's being sold. I've been an executive sales coach in private practice for, goodness, more than 20 years at this point. When I do coaching consultations with people that come to me for like one-on-one coaching, I have a book. Where is it? Here it is. This book got handed out to coaches way back when, The Prosperous Coach. Trip off this. This book recommends that professional coaches offer 100 complimentary consultations and do coaching. Give your prospect an example of what coaching with you is going to be like, and then they'll definitely say yes and work with you. No. I remember one coach specifically I talked to. He said, I did more than 100 consultations and none of them hired me. Well, okay, it's probably more about him than it is about the idea of doing it this way. But my point is, I don't do this. Is like, offer your coaching. Give them an example of what your coaching is like. Give them an example of what you're going to be like if you're their attorney. No, in all the years that I've worked as a professional coach in private practice, my consultation model is just like what Nathan is sharing with all of you. I do zero coaching in my consultations. What I do is I lay my prospect out on a metaphorical table and I do surgery on them and I lay out for them everything that's sitting there inside of them that they need to overcome. And by the end of the consultation, they're like, yes, I definitely need to work with you. And they leave the consultation with a much better awareness of where they are in their life or in their business. What Nathan just said is very similar. Typically, somebody goes, oh, yeah, this law firm's going to fight for me and help me win my case. Yeah, that's nice. Nathan's prospects leave saying, wow, you guys are going to fight for my family. It's different. Winning a case and fighting for a family is very different. Ooh, Jennifer Bade, good question. With cases as complicated as immigration cases, it's hard to close a case at the non-attorney consult level. How is that handled on the spot? Well, that's a good question. I do know we had a couple students in our training years ago. I'm sure they're still at the law firm. So it's an immigration law firm on the East Coast. They're not in here, so I'm not going to speak to them specifically, but they have 2 non-attorney salespeople. Both of the, here's what they do, Jennifer. Between the intake specialist doing a 10 to 15 minute intake call and the consultation, I know at that law firm specifically, immigration firm, an attorney will review the case and then give some insight to the non-attorney salesperson. Like, is this a viable case? What are we going to go here for? Is it a green card? Is it this? Is it that? So that the non-attorney salesperson knows exactly what service they're going to be selling in the consultation. But they've been doing it for years at that firm. I know they've got 2 non-attorney salespeople. So between intake and sales, an attorney is reviewing the case, giving the non-attorney salesperson some insight. Yeah. Yeah. So we just need to get our prospects emotionally critical. And they need to see that we actually care about fighting for their family and not just winning their case. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it's just people buy off of emotion, not off logic. I think I told you this joke. If people bought cars off of logic, everyone would just be driving a Prius. Obviously, not
right? Right? Nathan, are your consults virtual?
Yeah, every single one of them. Yeah.
Well, how many consultations have you done? Because I know you visited the firm a couple of times.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. So the law firm is in Minnesota. Where do you live?
Right now I'm in Houston, Texas.
Right now you are. That's where you live, right? I know you visited the law firm a couple of times. Did you have a chance to do consultations in the office while you were visiting?
Yes. Yeah.
How was that different?
It was longer. And it was a lot more. It was just different. Kind of the buildup is different. You're letting them in the office, right? The cool down after is different. There's not a hang up button and they just evaporate from your desk, right? There's a lot more subtleties I noticed actually. All of a sudden, usually from Zoom here up, your body language is incredibly important. But I noticed in person, I mean, everything's important at that point.
Yeah. Would you say that in person is more or less effective than virtual?
I think virtual is more effective, actually.
Why is that? Because there are people that would say just the opposite. But for somebody that does 100 consultations in a month, why would you say that?
I'd say it's more structured, right? It allows you to take control of the meeting in a more of a effective way, right? And just the flow is a lot more seamless too, right? You don't want to go too far into a consultation. You don't want them to ramble on and on and on. So you want to have some control of time. And I think Zoom in virtual controls that time a lot better than in person does.
Nice. Thank you. Any other questions out there in our little audience? It's so awesome you all are here. You have no idea. We're really glad that you're here today. All right. If any other questions pop up, we'll try to answer them, but we're at the top of the hour and I like to start on time and end on time. So thank you to everybody that joined us today. As I mentioned, and let's give it up to Nathan. For those of you, let's clap for Nathan, even though he can't see you. Thank you, Nathan, for joining us. I really appreciate this. We may have to do this again. So for everybody here, we are going to put this on our company YouTube channel this week. So it'll be available. We'll send an email out to everybody to let all of you know when it's online. So you can, if you'd like to watch it again. Also, if you want more information, you can head over to www.s3.training. We do offer recruitment for intake and sales. We offer intake training as well as sales training and coaching and fractional sales management on the back end. Again, Nathan Babb, thank you so much for joining us. All of our guests, thank you for joining us and listening in. Until next time, good selling. Bye, everyone. Take care. Have a great week.